This video is the first of many videos to come covering character creation and thinking about the backgrounds of those characters. So when you're thinking about creating a new character, there's two areas which I really like to consider, and that is personality and what has happened to them or what has happened in their background prior to the story that you are currently writing. So when you're thinking about personality, who is the character? First, think about the more basic details. What is their job? What colour hair do they have? Their physical description. Are they approachable? Are they religious? Are they philosophical? Also, one thing that I've definitely taken away in my time, try to make each character's description unique. And what I mean by this is not creating a unique character, just making their description very obvious to the reader. So what I mean by this, so for example, if you have two characters, and one has stubble, the other one has a little bit more stubble. Again, if you just describe a character that has stubble or stubble hanging off their face, if you describe all characters in the same way, again, the reader will be confused as what character you're talking about. So for example, I do this in my book Old Eyes. With most of my characters, I think of a quality or something that stands out about that character. So as soon as you have that piece of information, you know it's that character. So for example, with Mallory Sims, I always mention his unkempt appearance, his very messy looking clothing. He's usually always sweating a lot, or he's always trying to smoke or drink. Physical descriptions, such as his messy hair, like I describe his beard as like dagger-like bristles all the time. Whereas another character in the story, I just describe it as like more of a bushy beard. And because I never used like a bushy beard to describe my character Mallory Sims, even though it might get that way, the characters have this distinction, and the reader identifies with this and knows straight away which character I'm talking about. Another example of this is Reese Finley in my story as well. So for example, there's another character, you know, eyes is a major theme in my book called Old Eyes. I won't talk about that now because no one needs to read my book. Shameless plug! Reese Finley's eyes, I describe them as bright blue and mercurial, and just the way he's like, he has perfect clothing, no creases, his watch is immaculate. So as soon as you have that description of a character who's very, you know, clean, kemply, and he has these bright blue eyes, like, you just know straight away without even him speaking or entering the scene. You just know that's Reese Finley in my character. You just know that's Reese Finley in my book. And again, if you look at different writers, so for example in the Dresden Files, amazing book series. Again, if you know it's like a really strapping, dark, handsome, incredibly tall character carrying around a hockey stick, you know it's Harry Dresden, for example. It's these really obvious details that the characters can identify with and make your character incredibly easy to remember, even though you can have simple details like really tall, wears a long coat and carries a hockey stick. It's Harry Dresden. If you have these basic details such as their job, are they philosophical, religious, their physical description, try to make it unique compared to other characters who have similar features, you'll start getting to the more advanced ones as well. The advanced ones which I think are really critical are their wants and their needs, their desires and their fears. I also call this the emotional disposition and the motivations of the characters. So what are their emotional disposition? What are they scared of? What do they like? What do they don't like? What do they like to talk about? Are they religious again? If they do they like to talk about religion with other people? Do they like to discuss it? Or are they very guarded? Do they philosophize about the world? For example, my character Mallory Sims, he doesn't have a very high opinion of the human race. He's a pessimist. Understanding the emotional disposition and the motivations of your characters, their wants, their needs, their desires and their fears, it allows you to understand your characters in a more holistic sense. So in each scene, you know how the character may act in that scene. So for example, if you know that your character is a bit of a kleptomaniac, for example, and he finds himself in a shop full of goodies, but you weren't necessarily thinking of him stealing something, that may change your opinion of the character or what he might do. what happens if he gets caught in that scene, and then it instantly creates this dynamic which is pushing the story forward in that specific scene. So again, this dynamic is really important to establish, and again, it's one of the first things that I think of when I'm creating a new character. What do they want? What do they fear? What are their desires? And what is their emotional disposition and their motivation? These details don't need to be set in stone because, again, your character grows with you. You get these details at the beginning when you make an outline, you kind of start drafting the story, the first draft, and the character grows with you. You understand the character even more. Their motivations change throughout the story. And because their motivations at the end of the story compared to the beginning of the story, their emotional disposition, their fears, for example, they change, they shift. Or they were there in the beginning, they just weren't as prominent. That allows you to understand and allows you to put these cues and these clues in the story earlier, so foreshadowing, for example. So once you finish your first draft, you can go back, and then this allows you to foreshadow and to leave little clues and hints for the reader that this is where this is beheaded. And again, you can use red herrings for this as surprises and twists. And secondly, thinking about what has happened prior to the story commencing. And when I say the story commencing, I don't mean the beginning of the whole story, of this whole saga, this arc. What I mean is the story that the reader is reading or experiencing at that specific point. Stories, just like real life, are in medias res. Again, that's Latin for in the middle of things. So a story never just starts, it has a very stop and start feel. It never has this narrative that is very rigid, has a clear beginning and a clear end. That's because life is not like that. Stories are not like that. And again, stories are always a representation of life. Narratives are always continuous. So ask yourself many questions. Ask yourself, who are the friends of this character, for example? Who are the friends of your protagonist? Are they best friends? Are they not best friends? How did they become best friends? Do they have partners? Are they married? Did they have any siblings? Did they like those siblings? Did they not? Is their marriage good? Is their relationship fractured? Why? Think about all these details. These might not come up in the story. They might. But it allows you to understand the story from a more informed point of view. Again, informed as the writer, since technically you're a god. Kind of doesn't make sense, but it really does help your writing, and it helps you get the sense of this continuous story over to the reader. So again, if you think about the parents, what are the parents like, for example? Where do they live? Do they even like to live there? For example, my character Mallory Sims, he lives in the city, he's got this really small apartment. You know, it's a very messy apartment because again, he's a very messy individual, and again, that reflects his personality, that reflects his character traits. He's messy. This extends to his apartment. He doesn't particularly like living there, he doesn't really like living in a city. His landlord constantly harasses him for money that he's late because he's not very, he doesn't have many private investigations going on right now. You have to think about all these things as a reflection of the character, because the reader will definitely pick up on these details. Does the protagonist, does the minor character, do they have any special skills or traits or abilities? If so, how did they acquire them? If not, why not? Answering these kinds of questions and brainstorming yourself will help you build a more three-dimensional world, and will allow you to solidify the story in something very concrete, something very continuous, something very alive. And finally, these ideas, these things that develop as you write the story, will re-inform you, will give you new ideas, will give you new hints into what this world is about, and give you new ideas into what the character is about, and allow you to rebuild those characters and to develop those characters throughout a story. There's a really good book called Creating Character Arcs. There's a lot of useful tips and information in regards to character creation and connecting those kind of elements to story structure. It's called Creating Character Arcs. It's a highly reviewed book. It's something that's been recommended to me time and time again, and you know, I think it was a few months ago I got it. Again, these kind of books, it's up to you whether you put stock in them or not, because again, writing at the end of the day is something you need to get better at by reading other writers and also writing yourself. But I think understanding the techniques behind certain things and just seeing how other people do these kind of things really help to allow you to kind of master these different areas. And again, master, it's art, so you don't really ever become a master, but what I mean is it allows you to understand these concepts and allows you to apply them in a more, informed point of view. Again, this is the point of these videos. I'm trying to inform, share my experiences and the kind of details which I think are relevant in certain areas. So like I said, this is the first video of many, and one of my videos, world building, also will have future videos, and so this series too. If you like the video, then please like it, and let me know what kind of details do you think about when you are writing characters or you're creating characters. Or again, in the other video, world building, let me know how you make worlds, what kind of things do you think about too. I'll be incredibly interested into what kind of things you like to do too. Subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. And also, my book is now available on Amazon worldwide, so please check that out. Description in the box below. You can read the first 2 chapters for free on my website danielfryer.com, so please check that out too if you're unsure. Otherwise, have an amazing time and create some characters, even if it's just for role playing or if it's for a new story you're thinking about. You know, think about these details, think about their motivations, think about their emotional dispositions, their wants, their fears, their desires. You'll create more holistic characters, and again, trying to make their physical descriptions very unique compared to the other characters in your book. I'll see you in the next video.